Right.
So it's got nothing to do with administration.
What worries me about these prospective new owners is these stories this morning, and they come from reputable guys who work in Liverpool, and they're saying if they get a 9-point deduction, they won't take it over. Now that straight away says to me they couldn't care less about Liverpool, the football club. They could just care less about the fact, oh, you could go down here, lose a bit of money, you won't get in the Champions League, take a while to come back. That, for me, shows straight away they couldn't care less.
Correct.
Because it's a 9-point
Newcastle
deduction,
United
we won't have
that
it.
there is life after.
That's like doing a survey in the house, isn't it? You put a bid in and you realise it's got damp. And you're not going to buy it once you get your survey. If they're minus 3 points...
If they've only just realised this, you know, what
they haven't.
What is due diligence?
Why would the RBS take them into administration? Because they'll get less money back in the pound.
Correct.
So this makes no common sense. If the RBS take control from Hicks and Gillett, if Hicks and Gillett come up with nothing by the time that debt has to be serviced, they will then say, well, tell you what, as Paddy said, we will take that £300 million offer. So the thought this is all going to collapse.
What is the point of Hicks and Gillett fighting this so strongly? For the simple reason is they want more money from it, but they're not going to get more money. Whatever they do this week, say they block it, and the High Court says, no, you can't sell Liverpool, it's back with... They're not going to get more than 300 million.
I think they still think there might be a bid from the Chinese, myself. But... And I think they're probably holding out for that because they saw this as a massive cash cow at the start, and they could really be unstuck here because other businesses, other things have happened with them. And
would you be utterly shocked if they coughed and walked away on Tuesday morning?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. But I think
also they
just playing the old game where they say, just give us another 20 million.
But they could also persuade the RBS to lengthen the loan. They could actually say, give us another 6 months. So if the RBS say, OK, we'll give you 6 more months on these terms, on this £250–60 million debt they have, then you know that could still happen.
They wouldn't give someone who's failed with their mortgage another 6 months.
Exactly. No, but I'm just saying it's still that's what they may be hoping to achieve, to actually negotiate with the RBS a different way of servicing the debt in the short term.
Why should Liverpool fans who hate Hicks and Gillett have more faith in the new owners? American owners?
I don't think they should. I don't think they should. There's not... first of all, that thing about the 9-point deduction, we'll walk away. Straight away, that says to me, no. I think they're swapping like for like. How is this bloke suddenly interested? There's no way this guy is buying Liverpool to do anything other than turn around a profit.
Correct.
No other reason. He's not doing it to bring back the glory days. You know, I mean, you want to put him on a quiz show and say, "Tell us about the glory days, mate." He's not doing it for that reason. He's swapping like for like.
The only thing is, he's not. The difference is he's not preparing to load the debt actually onto the club. So there will be some more protection on the club, whereby you wouldn't have a situation where they go into administration. The actual way in which you would be buying the club would be much more attractive to Liverpool and to the fans than the way that Hicks and Gillett have done. They had no idea that Hicks and Gillett were going to run up all this debt
the unfortunate
to the RBS.
problem at Liverpool is that you have a club which is relatively cheap. It's worth 300 and even
that's not a lot to buy Liverpool.
Well, it is actually, because it loses. It's a loss-making activity that would be very, very hard and very, very expensive to turn into a profit-making activity. The reason is that in order to turn it into a profit-making activity, you'd have to build a stadium the size of Arsenal's, which is a profit-making activity. And to do that, you have to spend a lot more than £300 million. So in actual fact, the real cost of the club is more like £800 million. And there is no, and John W. Henry the Fourth of Agincourt or something isn't rich enough to spend that even half that kind of money.
Because Arsenal's had the benefit of, once they had developed the Emirates site, of course they've got loads of their money back on selling flats on the Highbury site, you know, in an area of London which has got good, you know, sustainable house prices.
Arsenal is sustainable business. Liverpool, it's very hard to imagine it as a sustainable business in the Champions League without the kind of investment that Neil has pointed out.
And also why
should John Henry II Part 2? Why should he's got no interest in Liverpool any more than he's got an interest in Scunthorpe.
Yes.
I mean, if the fans swallow this one, they'll just be making the same mistake as they made last
but they
time.
need to do something. You can't just allow it to carry on. And in essence, you just have to take another gamble and hoping that this turns out a lot better than the Hicks and Gillett. One would hope that at the moment, at least what he's proved of achieving there in Boston, you know, is that his businesses are more sustainable. They're in much better health than the Hicks and Gillett ones, and you know, and they are the whole package is a lot better.
How much?
Whether or not that's going to prove to be in the long run.
If Hicks and Gillette stay in control after Tuesday, surely with a comment like Hicks has come out with about the cops saying and the noise we're dealing with over there, I mean, it's impossible to continue, isn't it?
Well, it's impossible for them to go to the ground.
Yeah.
Certainly. I mean, you can't say that about. You can't say that about one of the most loyal followings in world football. But this is another example about these loonies who come over to our sport. I mean, I'm sounding like, going on about Johnny Foreigner here, but who seriously do not understand. In American
Mike
sports,
Ashley's not a Johnny Foreigner, is he? So you're not making an anti-foreigner point.
Well, he is in terms of the North and the South.
Maybe,
He's
it's arguable,
after all.
true.
But it's another comment that shows a lack of understanding and when I was talking about emotion before and football, they are tied together, and the moment they're not tied together, it really does go, and the stands become empty and the seats become empty. You could have the most profit-making football club in the world, nobody in the stadium and the match being played, and nobody would watch it on television. It's the emotion, it's the atmosphere, it's the highly charged nature of what football is that makes it what it is. And these blokes don't understand that.
Neutral observers go to Anfield to hear the cops sing "You Never Walk Alone," and to see the see the Shankly, the gates. And so, I mean, it's like in some respects a tourist venture because of that whole reason, because of the emotion that's involved.
Can we see Liverpool collapsing? Like Leeds, like Sheffield Wednesday?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
You think there'll be a recovery this season?
Yeah, I think so, because I think that you've got if you've got viable options on the table, which they do have at the moment. You've got a manager in charge who knows how to run a football team. You've got players that are too good to allow a team to go down. I know that's a cliche,
overused
but I mean,
phrase.
it just really, just really are.
But I mean, you have Gerrard and Carragher clapping fans when they're protesting and everything, but they're not doing it on the pitch.
Well, no, they're not, and they have to take responsibility, don't they? And they have to listen to the manager. They have to block all this out, stop using it as an excuse, and they have to start playing properly.
I'm not sure if do they use it as an excuse. I've never heard Gerrard say.
Yeah,
this
they
is
have.
affecting the play.
No, they have. Sometimes we need this sorted out. It's destabilising the club.
Torres as well.
We need this sorting out.
What you can see happening with Liverpool is them no longer being regarded as one of the big four.
Yeah.
I think the big four will now be Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City, and probably Arsenal. And Liverpool will be now with the Aston Villas, with everybody else, knocking on the door, losing money because they're not in the Champions
Liverpool will be
League.
sort of vying with Everton. I mean, and if they're realistic and they do that, to stay in possible contention for a Europa League place, and if they do that, if they scale down their expectations for a few years, there's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't rebuild. They won't be able to rebuild. They won't rebuild
staying at Anfield, though. You can't rebuild staying at Anfield. The commercial turnover of Anfield is not good enough to compete with everybody else.
They can compete with the Evertons and the Aston Villas. And if they're happy to do that for a few years and be sensible and eventually build a stadium when they can afford to, then there's a good long-term future for Liverpool because of those fans.
Yeah.
When I was talking before about the fans and saying they should think more about investing in the club directly rather than buying merchandise and so on. I have total respect for Liverpool's fans. Some of the best nights I've had have been European semi-finals and things like that.
They are. They're great. Anfield on the European night's a fantastic place to be.
It just brings a tear to your eye just thinking about it. But my football club went out of. I have no sympathy for the fans. Absolutely none. My football club, Dundee, went into administration a few days ago. And I don't even feel sorry for myself, so I'm not going to feel sorry for them. They're football fans. The people I feel sorry for are the people who lose their jobs. At Dundee Football Club, people are standing to lose their livelihoods, and the taxpayer, if it goes into administration, taxpayers, most of whom have no interest in football,
I never thought we'd get on the Dundee
will be losing.
So you don't feel sorry for football fans.
The last word on Liverpool.
You don't feel sorry for football fans who devoted their lives to this football club, put their money in.
Anyone
hang on.
devotes their life to a football club,
that's what they are.
You know what I'm trying to say, Paddy? Who've invested an awful lot of money that could have been spent on other things for the family because it's Liverpool, because their hearts are tied to that club. And you say,
is it all postulated on being in the Champions League? That's not what being a football supporter is about.
No, that's fair.
You shouldn't care what division you're in.
barking at me? What's the matter with you?
no,
I'm trying to explain to you about the football fan and why you should feel sorry for them when they've devoted themselves to that football club. And you say, don't feel sorry for them at all.
I don't.
I think that's a very cold attitude to take. I understand some of it, but I think you should have sympathy, because I think you're underestimating the value in people's lives, the people who work and live in Liverpool, to what Liverpool Football Club gives to them in their daily lives.
I have to say, I agree with Neil and Daniel with this. So you're on your own with
I'm perfectly.
ostracising Liverpool fans.
I'm quite comfortable
we'll
with
come
that.
back to you on the emotions of football in a moment.